In this last lesson of the Substance course, we're going to end with the Substance Designer. And right now, I already opened the software and I'm going to change the language. I'm going to create a new model from the button here. So I'm going to click on New and make it empty. Or actually, I can use a template before. We can go more into deep with this. So using a template will always help us a little bit to get started. So let's use like metallic coated or whatever you want from this. So let's go OK and let's create the file. So we already have some information here. We have a color assigned to this cube down here, and also we have reflections. We're gonna continue with other maps. So before we continue, first of all, I want to change the language. So I'm going to go to Modify Preferences and change it into English so that you can all understand. So let's apply here and say OK. And if it doesn't change, probably you need to restart. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to exit without saving and just restart. And there we have it. So we can create, again, a new substance graph. Now, basically, Substance Designer is based on graphs. And it's another representation of the materials that we started to create with Substance Painter. And it's a different way to design materials and textures. We're not going to use like brushes and painting. We're not going to use textures and pixels, but we're going to use parameters. So this is what is called parametric design or procedural design. So I'm going to create here, again, a material by starting with a template so that we have something that can help us at the beginning. Now, on the right side, we can choose the resolution, as we already know. And if we want to create this in a new package, and that's kind of a brief explanation of what this preset is about. So let's go to OK, and let's start it. Okay, so you can see that this material contains already a lot of settings for us. Now, first of all, we have, and you can also expand here. So from here, you can double click and you can choose the various channels of these materials. So let's say that this is representing your material. And these are the channels that we already understood how to use in the Painter lessons. But now we have, again, kind of a different representation. We see them as nodes. These are nodes, and this is the nodes for the coat part. So you can like create more layers, and this is the nodes of the main material. And every time you double click, you can see here the preview of that particular texture or channel, which is right now not a texture, but it's just a simple color. So this is the main area where you work, and it's the graphic editor for the nodes. And this down here is the 3D scene. And it's pretty similar to what we saw so far in the other Substance application. So you can just navigate in 3D and using the mouse buttons, or you can also hold the Alt key. But here you just need to use the left mouse to orbit, the middle mouse to pan. You can scroll the scroll wheel to zoom, or you can press the right mouse button to zoom. And then you can change the visualization of the 3D view here. So for example, if you want to see some environment, and if there is no environment, we can bring it later. We can see the geometry of this mesh and the various information about the 3D world, which is not really important here. The most important part is the 2D. But you can also, change this. You can make it a simple cube. You can make it an inner box or a rounded cylinder or wherever. You can also like load other cloud. You can also load from other application. You can load 3D models. That's a hollow box. Well, let's go with the standard cube. If you want, you can also bring other 3D models. In this case, I got this one here from the Share website. and it's called man-logs-leave shared, and it's a FBX file. So I'm gonna drag it and drop it here, and there you go. So we can, use any mesh file to create the material on top of that. Now, when I select a node, for example, I select the base color node, I have information about that node and parameters. So this is where I change things. Now, we have an input here, and we can have inputs and outputs. Right now, we have an input from this other node, which is a uniform color, and it's one of the nodes that you find also up here. And also, if you right click, you can add nodes, you can add comments, frames, and other operation here. You can also press the space bar, or you can press the tab on your keyboard to open up the node insertion. Now, for example, if I want to change here, I can change the color into something else. And then if I go down here, well, I cannot do much with the normal at the moment. But for example, in the roughness, we are using a gray color, which means, not too shiny, not too glossy, not too rough. But if I change this, I can make it more glossy, or I can make it more rough. And then we have other information like metallic. So I can make this less metallic, and you can see everything here happens with a uniform color. And then we have the height. With the height map, we can represent something in 3D. So it's kind of 3D modeling, if you will. So we have all of these, and also here we also have the code, which is gonna be on top of the base material. So let me just delete all the texture here. So if I delete all the inputs, this is where we're left off from the base material. And now that we know the interface a little bit better, so up here you have, the navigation for the graphic editor, and these are again the nodes, and these are the parameters where we define everything. Now that we know things a little bit better, let's try to begin with another scene. So I'm gonna go to File, go to New, and Substance Graph, and let's use, for example, here an empty template. Okay, so I don't have anything here. And the first thing I want to bring in probably is to have a material to apply to my model. So let's right click, add node, and you can find here the most important nodes. If you don't find them, just space bar, and let's type base, and let's get a base material. So now we have this base material right here that we can apply to our model. So right click, and let's view in the 3D view. Now this is the representation of this base material, which is kind of, presets for us. Now again, if you want to use some preset materials, we can also go here in the libraries. We have PBR materials, and let's choose fabric. Okay, and then right click, view in 3D view. There you go. That's a pretty big, but now we go in the parameters. Let's select this node, which is kind of a central node of the material. And here we can find the various channels that we are using right now, and then also some adjustment like luminosity, contrast, hue shift, saturation, normal intensity, if we want to increase the 3D effect, height range also, and let's go down here, dirt. Sometimes we have like extra, things we can add like dirt. And let's say also here to change the size. So sometimes it takes a little bit to adjust the parameters depending. That down there you have the rendering outputs. So just play around with the parameters, and you can adjust the preset materials. Now here, let's again right click, view in the 3D view. We have some basic settings. So how do we apply our own as settings? So in this case, what I want to do is create an input because we only have outputs here. So I select the node, go down here, and yeah, I can work with the metallic effect again and the roughness. I can adjust those already. And then I also have height, but these are empty. So if we want to use some more interesting procedural maps, here we can activate them. So we can activate the base color, we can activate the normal, we can activate the roughness, the metallic, the ambient occlusion, and the height. And we can start to work with this. Now you can see everything turned black. So let's apply first a base color. So for the base color, we can start to use some of these that we have up here. So, well, let's go for, a simple fill. So there you go. That's a uniform color. And I click and drag this here and double click on this node if I want to change it. So let's make it green. And again, right click, view in the 3D view. Sometimes it doesn't display. Sometimes it's just, some other information that is getting in the way. So maybe we need to go like step by step so we don't lose the path. So let's deactivate everything except what we need. You can see the ambient occlusion that was causing the problem probably. So about the metallic, do we want to change this using a uniform color, or do we want to use something more complex? And I'm just going to change here the scene again with a simple cube. I don't need the t-shirt right now. And by the way, you can also change the material here. And if you want to see the displacement effects, you need to make sure that you have tessellation plus displacement. And then you have, the possibility to edit the camera, the lights, the environment. Now for the environment, you also have an environment folder here. So let's search for, well, you can see everything here. So for example, this is an environment and I can click and drag it. And I can also see the environment by clicking here. And again, you'll find other environments there we go, the 3D view here. So you can change the lining with that. And you can also create your own in Substance Designer, but it's kind of more advanced situation. Now we are just learning the basics. So let's say that for the metallic, I want to use something else. Let's say I want to use like a custom graphic. So in that case, we go here to texture generator, and we can try to create something. Let's go for this, for example. Okay, and then we click this and drag it inside here. There you go. Immediately we have the effect. So now that's not metallic at all, but only where the black parts are it will be non-metallic. When the white parts are, it will be metallic. So white means the presence of the effect, black means the absence, gray is a middle ground, as we already know. Now if I create another roughness layer here, so I'm gonna make it true, I can use the same one also for the roughness. So you can see now it's a little bit shiny on some parts, more glossy on some parts, and less glossy in some other. Now also here we have the possibility in the, well, if I select some of these, to change again the scale and the type of texture, like disorder or roughness. So you can see how everything can be seen like in real time. Now also if you want to invert this, for example, I want to invert this for the metallic effect, I can add a node. So spacebar and type invert. So you can invert a color. So link it here, link it here. Okay, now this is not inverting because this is not an actual color. So you need to place the correct node at the correct time. So this is going to be invert grayscale. You can see also the color of the nodes are gray. And now we have inverted the metallic effect. Now let's also go for the height map. So what I'm gonna do is create, well, let's do something different. So let's create a pattern. So we have here noises and patterns. Patterns are more defined. So let's use something that can be like tiling or maybe stripes. So you have all different patterns here, also fabric. So I'm gonna use stripes, and let's add the stripes to another channel. So I'm gonna go back to the main node, and I'm gonna activate also the height. And then I'm gonna push this inside the height. Now we can see some height information. So here we can change now the stripes. We can change the width of these stripes, the softness. And sometimes you can do this directly inside the texture. Sometimes you can do it, well, these are other parameters. Sometimes you can do it with other nodes. For example, I can blur out this, and you can see it's not quite visible anymore. So I need to adjust the intensity. And depending on how I adjust it, I have a different result. Now, if the change is not happening in the 3D view, what you can do is try to right click and refresh. So view in 3D. And so we have this 3D effect. Now, if you want to make this stronger, we may want to use the normal. So let's go again back here and apply a normal. Now for the normal, we need a node that is actually called normal. So I'm gonna type normal here and get my normal, which is not in this. So it's not the normal color. Well, I can also get it from here. This one here, normal. So we have an input and an output. The output goes here. The input could be any black and white that will be converted into a normal. So let's try to use this. You can reuse any, texture. So there you go. We have now another different situation. And it's kind of also overriding this other information of the stripes. So I can perhaps use the stripes and make that even looking even stronger. Now, what if I want to use both? So I want to use a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Well, in that case, you can try to blend them together. That's another important node. And it's right here, blend. So here we can push here a foreground, we can push here a background, and we can place it in the output and see what's going to happen. Now, at the moment, we have like the foreground is kind of overriding the background. So I can change the opacity here and make, try to adjust them a little bit differently. Now there is not only the blend, you also have other blending modes and adjustments like in Photoshop. So you can try to find some nodes, or we can also try here to change the effect by multiplying or changing here linen and so on. Or again, you have other nodes here. You can make things sharper with sharpen. You can change the luminosity, the hue, the saturation, the luminosity. You can work with the curves. You can work with the levels. You can warp. So if you don't find the parameters directly into the texture that you have chosen, the procedural texture, you can apply here yourself the node that you need. For example, levels are really important also because they can help you to change the effect of that black and white or grayscale texture. So if I go here and work with the curves, you can see that I'm changing now the effect entirely, by adjusting the levels of grays in this case, and then you have whites and blacks. So this becomes, now more, with a more contrast because more glossy and with the more visible spots. And this is kind of the inverted effect. So you can really, create a lot of different effects. And this one here is going to affect the normal, and it's going to affect the other channels. So with one levels, you cannot affect everything depending on where you position it. Otherwise, you can place it in another position that can only affect, for example, this other one right here. Now you can try also with other patterns, and you can see here you have a lot of other stuff you can check. So also you can create shapes. So let's create here a shape, and I can make this like a triangle. So let's make this 3 sides, and then I can put this into one of my layers. Now remember that the gray represent a grayscale layer, and the yellow like a color layer. So if I want to place it inside here, I need to turn this into something that is colored. So let's use like maybe this gradient. That's gonna be enough to make this considered as a color, and then I can bring it in here. So now it's like applying a graphic on top of that. Or well, let's do something else with this. So if I go in the polygon, we also have, well, the scale. So that's going to be a little bit smaller. And then we have the turns, the degrees of the rotation, and then we have the tiling. So we can increase the tiling for this. And what if we want to place this into another pattern? So if I use another pattern, let's use, for example, let's use a checkerboard pattern. So if I bring this inside here, well, I cannot do that as we know. So this one goes here and this one goes here. Okay, now I can see the pattern. And if I double click again, I can change here the tiling. So let's make this a little bit larger. Okay. And when we use a pattern, usually we have the possibility to change the input that we're using, but I don't see it right now. So let's use another pattern. So it depends on every time on the type of texture and pattern that you're using. So let's go with the tile generator. So I want to change this and I want to use the tile generator right there. So I'm gonna, oh, sorry. So let's use gradient again. There you go. Bring this inside. Okay, so now we have this tile generator. But in this case, you can see I have an extra node. I can input this triangle right here. And here I need to change. So instead of using, there you go, the pattern, I can change the pattern. And I can also change and make it image input. So I can use my triangle right there. So that's, another way I can do repetition, and I can use this as tiling. Now let's add another blend and input this green color so that we have this, final result. And we want to use this as diffuse. So that's, another all examples of, you can build up like a chain of actions that will get you to your final results right here. Now there is also another way you can draw or create graphics in directly in this software, and that's to use also the vector graphics. So you have like spline and path tools. So well, we're gonna have here, let's see, let's use a simple curve. like, well, we can use the spline map. There you go, or spline mapper. And well, no, this needs, you know, some spline, so that's kind of a deformator. So let's go for a standard spline, not a transform, but a creator. So let's go for like a spline circle. So we already have the shape. That's going to be simpler. So now we have the circle shape, and I can again modify it. So I have like the circle radius, and then I can change the thickness. I can change this. I can make it into a spiral, increase the turns, and so on. So I can just, you know, customize it. And when I'm ready, I can trim this also, by the way. When I'm ready, I can place this preview into something that is gonna make it something visible. So let's use like let's use height. Okay, it's not visible in the height because the normal is kind of taking control. So let's go for the metallic effect. There you go. So you can see the effect right there. Let's also use it here, so it's gonna be even more visible. And that's, you know, just another way just to show you that you have a lot of possibilities here in Substance Designer, and you just need to go there and experiment. Once you understand how it works, you know, it's gonna be quite simple. And then when you finished, you want to export everything, you have different options. So if I want to export this material for another tool, for another software, what I can do is go to the main node and make sure we have some outputs. So right click and create output nodes. There you go. Now the attention right there sign is gone, and you have now all these channels that we can export. So let's save everything, save the package. Now you can either click up here and you can send it, you can publish a material for Substance Painter. You can send it directly to Painter or to other software of the Substance package, or you can right click here, and also here you can publish and send to. Let's send it to Painter. And also you can go here, right click, and you can export the outputs. So you can choose which one you want to export. You can say all, and you can also change the director here and the format. So let's go for simple JPEGs and RGB. That's going to be fine. So let's export the outputs, and there you go. You can see the previews in there. So just need to wait for the export to be finished. Now, if we go in Substance 3D Painter, there's the material right here. So if I want to test it, I can open a sample. Let's use the preview sphere. And there you go. So we have the, you know, standard sphere. And now we can just click and drag, apply this, and there's the material that we just created. Of course, then we can use it in all the other ways we know in Painter. Okay, so when we finish to export, we can also see the folder where we exported all of this stuff. So if I navigate in my Substance 3D Designer folder, there's the texture that I just exported. And now I can use them in other 3D software. So this will conclude our lesson here in Designer, and also the course in Substance 3D, because we covered all the different software, and the main one remains Painter. But these are, you know, the other software that we saw, we just, you know, seeing some basics, and we can start to use them, but they're gonna be probably developed more, and they're gonna be evolved into something that is gonna be more and more complex in the future. So we're gonna keep an eye on those, and in the meanwhile, we're just gonna use them as support for Painter. But still, we have a lot of things to learn here, and we'll probably create more guides in the future. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and also stay updated, and join the channel if you want to support us and thank us. So thanks again. See you in the next.